Today we got a story time of this bully that gets completely owned by the principal. It's pretty hilarious. I know you'll enjoy it, so stick around, subscribe if you're new, and let's call today's subscriber who submitted this story, let's call him Blake. So anyways, this all happened when Blake was in high school. And in high school, they had lunches. And for your lunches, you had to bring in your own money. I know different schools kind of do it differently, but at Blake's school, you had to pay for the lunches and you had to bring in money every single day. And almost like the most stereotypical bully on planet Earth. Like when you think of a bully in a TV show, they're coming for your lunch money. And no, this bully legitimately came for Blake and the other kids' lunch money. Like, this is basically reading a fairy tale at this point. But anyways, right, I digress. So this was just another day that, Blake would go in, he would have his money, and he would just honestly pray every single day that he walked into the cafeteria, every single day that he went to try and get some lunch. He was just praying that the big kid, there was this one big kid who was the bully. We're going to call him Ben the bully. And also because whenever I have a secondary character, I immediately call him Ben because I'm not that creative. But anyways, right, Ben would come over and there would be two other people with him that were also kind of like the bully sidekicks or kind of like, kind of just to add another layer of intimidation. Ben was already a pretty big kid, and the other two kids were pretty big as well, and kind of the three of them would come over, and they wouldn't explicitly threaten violence, but you kind of knew that if you weren't giving the lunch money over, that things were going to be tough for you. For example, there was this one kid, I'm not going to give him a name. He's not coming up again in the story. Who said, no, I'm not going to give you my lunch money. And his life was kind of miserable until he did. For example, they would walk by him, slam him into walls, push him over, and kind of like run away, trip him, intentionally destroy stuff of his. They ran it like a mob. They were basically the schoolyard mafia, man. Like, that's kind of how it worked. So anyways, right, this all started, or I guess it started for a while, but this story starts one day when Blake was coming in to the cafeteria, and man, all he wanted was just to eat some food. He just wanted to eat some food. And he walks in, and the thing was, right, it was about like one day out of the week, on average, that Blake wouldn't be able to have lunch because he'd have his lunch money literally taken from him. And Blake was really hungry on this day because he woke up a little bit late because he had to, I don't know, he slept in, or he's playing, video games too late at night, or just watching so many Pugs videos that, which is a great time investment in my opinion, and totally understandable and worth the lack of sleep. But anyways, he came in, and for some reason, he didn't have breakfast, and he was starving, and he was just thinking to himself, please God, just let me eat today. And unfortunately, as he was walking up to the cafeteria, a big, large figure appeared from behind the cafeteria door with two smaller yet still pretty large figures behind him. And Blake immediately knew that this was Ben the bully and his two sidekicks. And Ben is like, Blake, my good friend, how are we doing today? And Blake is like, hello, Ben. Because they were not good friends. Blake already knew what was about to happen. He already knew why Ben and his two bully friends were standing there. He already knew what was going down here. There was no question about it. And, Ben is like, Blake, I hope you're having a good day today. And I also hope you're not too hungry today because, we run a legitimate organization around here, and kind of points to his two minions. And it's like, and it's tax collection day, man. I'm so sorry. It has to be like this, man. And Blake, in his head, is just like, it doesn't have to be like this. And, sure enough, he reaches into his pocket and gives Ben the money. And as Ben's walking away, Blake's like, hey, I didn't get breakfast today. I'm really hungry. And just because Blake was trying to chip away a little bit at Ben and just see if the man had a bit of a heart. And Ben turned around and looked at Blake and said, man, that really sucks that, the day that you didn't have breakfast was the day that it was tax collection day. I'm so sorry, buddy. And they walk away to go get the next victim or whoever else they're going for. And Blake was really angry. Like, he always hated them, and he really hated the fact that they had this kind of, like, mafia-like power monopoly. Like, he thought that was ridiculous in the first place. But just for some reason, I think it was a combination of him just being fed up with it, and the fact that he was hungry, and the fact that when he tried to say, hey, man, I didn't have food, that, Ben was so smugly saying, oh, it's, oh, that sucks, man. It's part of tax collection day. That's so, just that combination really just pushed him over the edge. So later that night, he called up one of his friends. He's like, man, I am sick and tired of Ben and his goonies going around and like taking all of our money, taking all of our lunch money. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's against the rules. We need to stop this somehow. And this is when Ben's friend reminds him, hey, like, it's not like people haven't tried to report this in the past. Essentially, what has happened is people have reported this to the principal, but Ben is very charismatic and he's very good at what he does, unfortunately. So Ben the bully would always be able to say, like, he would always come up with a reason, a counter argument of this kid hates me because of X. He's making this up. You can search my lockers and myself. You won't find any money on them. They actually did Ben the bully and his other two mafia goonies or like little minions or whatever, did a really good job of basically laundering this money. They got the money in and essentially it was gone. They had a secret place to hold it and then they immediately brought it back to their house. Like they were not taking any risks. So when Blake and his friend were talking, Blake's like, yeah, well, the problem is people before, they didn't have any proof of this happening because people before would just go to the principals or a school or teacher and basically rat on them and have no proof. And then Blake the bully would counter and be like, oh, this person, give a decent counter that he made up. And then they would find no evidence. And then the person who ratted, Blake and his two minions would make their life a living hell, basically. So there was a huge incentive just to kind of deal with it and just give him the money every once in a while. And Blake was like, no, this ends now. I am done with this nonsense. And I think I have a plan. Real quick, comment bully if you made it this far into the video. I just want to see how many people make it this far. And also, please let me know if you're binge watching these videos, or if you didn't know, if you want to support the channel, go ahead and watch a bunch of videos in a row. It really helps me more than you can imagine. Also, just so you guys know, I mean, I've been doing YouTube for a while and I feel like I'm pretty successful at this point, over 500,000 subscribers. And there's a lot of stuff that I've learned along the way. And I just made, this was actually a couple months ago. I basically pulled an all-nighter making hours worth of video content, giving all the tips and tricks I've learned along the way, including what Mr. Beast told me on a phone call, because he actually called me back in 2017 and told me how to do YouTube, and here we are now. And essentially, right, I wanted to make those videos, and I wanted to give them back to, the people who support me a lot. And so, yeah, if you want to become a channel member, which is down below, hit the join button and then go to the membership part on my page. Once you've joined the channel, there's probably like hours and hours worth of video content telling you how to be a YouTuber. There's not a lot of value in it if you don't want to be a YouTuber, just a heads up. So don't buy it if you don't want to become a YouTuber, but consider becoming a channel member if you want to learn all the tips and secrets or whatever. Anyways, that's enough marketing to you guys. Let's get back to the story. So anyways, right, just a little recap. Blake is done with having his money taken from him. He's done with it. And also at this time, Blake wants to kind of rat out Ben and his minions. And he's talking to his friend, and his friend reminds him that, people have tried to rat him out in the past, and it just doesn't seem to work. And Blake says, you know what, I have a plan. And here was the plan. Blake was going to secretly record the next time he had his money taken from him. And then he was going to report to the principal's office with proof this time. So sure enough, right, Blake, first of all, has to figure out how he's going to do this. He doesn't want to make it super obvious because then, the bully would realize that he's being recorded and, he's not an idiot. Unfortunately, he's not an idiot because he's cleaned up pretty well before. And so he needs to find a way to make it a very kind of secretive camera recording. So anyways, Blake goes on Amazon and is just looking for secret recording things, or Amazon, he's looking on online stores, and then eventually he finds it. He finds a hat that has a secret camera in it. And the secret camera in it will record and you can upload it to a phone or a computer. And he's like, this is perfect. So anyways, Blake starts wearing a hat to school. And as soon as he walks right before he walks in the cafeteria, he turns his hat on. The other thing is this camera doesn't have any audio. So Blake is going to have to be very, very he's going to have to show that this guy is taking his money. But also to make up for the fact that the camera only has video, before he goes in, he turns on his camera hat, but he also opens up a voice memo on your iPhone. Basically, that kind of just is an audio recording, and he puts it in his pocket. And he tested it out with his friend. And if you're standing like 4 or 5 feet away, the iPhone, just because of like the way it was positioned, it was able to pick up on the audio. So while he didn't have a video with the audio, he had video and audio. So every single day before he went to the cafeteria, he would turn on his voice memo on his iPhone, put that in his pocket, then turn on his camera hat. He would walk in, and for 4 days in a row, he went in without any problem from Ben. And on the 5th day, he walks in, once again, turns on his hat, turns on his audio, walks in, and he's stopped at the door. And he's like, all right, this is my time. And Ben is like, all right, Blake, it's that time of the week. You already know what it is. And Blake's like, I don't know what it is. Can you remind me? Trying to act as dumb just to get Ben to confess more and more. And Ben's a little annoyed. He's like, man, we do this all the time. And Blake's like, well, can you remind me why I'm doing this? And Blake, or Ben, under kind of like the assumption that he's totally safe, that he's totally fine, really just lets everything go, because normally he wouldn't be this reckless or this foolish, but he has no reason to believe that any of his words will be, recorded or something he wouldn't be able to dispute as a lie. So, Ben goes on to say, well, you know what happens to people who don't give us their lunch money? We make their life a living hell. You remember Adam, right? And Adam was one of the kids who told and then, got his life destroyed. He's like, you know how Adam always got pushed into the lockers? You know how Adam always had his stuff smashed and destroyed? And you know how that all stopped when he started paying taxes again? Isn't that crazy? Isn't that interesting? So for that reason alone, Blake, I really think you're going to want to reconsider, not giving us your lunch money today. And if you do, no problems, no hard feelings. I'm not a bad guy. I just want you to know how it is. And Blake in his head is like, oh, Ben, you idiot. Like, you fell for it this time. So Ben's like, all right, man, like, that's totally fair. Here's my lunch money. And then he says, like, I'm only giving this to you because, like, otherwise you're going to, like, you and your friends are going to come and attack me. And Ben's like, whoa, let's go easy. I didn't say we were going to. I just said that happened to happen. And then, so at this point, Blake's like, all right, I really want to get this guy. And Blake's like, oh, well, then I'm not going to give you money if it's someone else. So then Ben's like, yeah, okay, we'll come and beat you up if you don't give us this money right now. And Blake in his head is like, bro, this is perfect. How's he fallen for it this bad? And sure enough, Blake's like, all right, well, I just wanted to be clear. And Ben's like, all right, have a good day, sir. And the three of them walk off. Blake is hungry because he has no food. However, Blake is also very happy because he immediately goes, or not immediately, because he's just waiting for the rest of the day. He's so excited to get home because he has to go home and process the audio and video and all that kind of stuff. He goes back home and he's a little nervous when he plugs the hat into the computer and he checks it and then he also checks the voice memo. He's nervous just because if it's corrupted, he can't really pull that off again or it'd be very difficult. And sure enough, the video is totally fine and the audio, it's not crystal clear, but you can hear everything. There's no white noise or anything like that. You can hear everything. It's perfect. So the next day rolls around, and one of the first things Blake does as soon as he can is he goes to the principal's office, and he explains everything, and then he shows the video and the audio. And the principal is like, well, we've heard complaints of this before, and we have had our suspicions, but Ben has always been able to explain it away. But there's no way he'll be able to explain this away. The principal's like, do you mind if I come in? I don't want to get him right away. I want to see what it looks like in the wild. And, Blake was like, all right, man, like, if you're going to get him, I don't really care when you do. The principal's like, all right, perfect. So you might be seeing me at lunch today, but don't make a big fuss about it. I really want to catch him in the act. And Blake's like, hey, man, like, I'm cool with that. Anything to take this guy down, I'm really fine with. And so sure enough, that day at lunch, Blake goes in and he doesn't have his money taken from him because it's not the tax day for him. And he gets his food and he sits down and he's sitting with one of his friends. And his friend's like, hey, man, this was the friend that he was talking to on the phone with. He's like, hey, man, did you get the audio and the video? And Blake turns and says, just watch today. I promise. You'll see. And the friend's like, dude, what are you talking about? And Blake's like, dude, trust me. The friend's like, okay, I'm trusting you. And so Blake he's eating his food, but he's mostly looking around. He sees the principal sitting at the last table. And at this point, right, he looks up and he sees Ben, the bully, talking with another one of this kid. And he sees the principal looking at Ben. So then Blake kind of nudges his friend, is like, hey, dude, it's happening. And his friend's like, what's happening? And he points to the principal. And his friend's like, oh my God. And sure enough, Ben, the bully, is taking money from this kid when the principal walks up. And they're close enough to hear what's happening. And the principal says, Ben, and they points to the other two kids, you're coming with me for, bullying, harassment, stealing money from others, and multiple other charges, or whatever he said. And Ben's like, no, this isn't what it looks like. Like, I'm just, And the kid's like, points at Ben and says, this kid threatened violence if he didn't give me money. And the principal's like, all right, Ben, and you two, I think you're coming with me.